Very quickly, I want to suggest certain views I have on the idea of where mankind is. And I'm going to talk about a certain type of person, a certain type of human being who this human being has chosen to let go of everything to discover the answer to the final question. Sometimes we get answers to our existential questions, but we don't take them because they're inconvenient. I want to talk about the right and wrong of humanity, and what that means is, like, if we took a snapshot of the morality, of the morals and ethics of each country right now, where would we be in that statistic? Would that be a statistic, or would it just be a horrific scene? You see, regardless of the right and wrong which you are struggling against or with or whatever or causing, that is a separate thing than the efficiency of your action for humanity. What does that mean? That means from the moment you're born, your actions shouldn't be ruining our healthy planetary systems, but should be evolving them. Regardless of the right and wrong you feel, regardless you think it's the right time to say something or it isn't. It's the right time to write something or isn't. It's the right time to draw something or it isn't. You need to understand, we need to maintain higher states of being because we know the body. It's as if man, the being that was man, the ape that was man, recognized that now it's time to be self-aware to its body based on its creative ability here in this physical world by creating technology. We are creating something that is helping us see further. That is technology, pretty much. However, man, and after we let go of the branches, it seems, the monkey hit the ground with its feet touching the earth. This ape began walking on two legs. This ape changed suddenly. Now, regardless of that change, it went through a phase of recognizing what the body is and how it works. And it wasn't with one human. One human being couldn't establish all the knowledge we have today. It was a group activity. It was as if different views through the same eye came to help move things forward, right? Now, regardless of the idea that we have lost technologies, because that's a totally another videos of what lost technologies are, but in regards to this, once you become aware that now we know how the body works, we're no longer just limited to our body because we've understood it completely. Now we want to understand more of a creative fabric to existence, more of to pull the cloth and see how far it goes, to pull an idea because it came across that it pulled you first, it called you first, you see? You have to see and make sure you're aware what kind of person you are when you're responding to things. Because some people act like saints, and the minute they're out of that comfortable space where they felt like a saint, they become sinners. And then it's as if it's a breaking of illusion, but at the same time, it's a condition. It's a self-induced condition. You don't have to feel like a sinner. You don't have to feel like a saint. You could be neutral, present, and aware. You don't have to use names all the time in your way of thinking. It's not as if the origin where your thoughts come are only written in thought. No, it's not that. It's not only written in thought. Your experience is more because you have subtler existential bodies which are not in this wavelength of reception. So regardless of what technology we make in this wavelength, we can't see anything beyond that. Whatever rules, theories we can say, we are one part. We are one finger trying to explain how the palm is in every other finger. The only way we can explain it is by not talking about it and being the finger we are in the palm that is, holding this moment of existence for us. It is not a story-based thing. I want you to understand. So in other words, I'm saying let your senses of right and wrong be based on all the stories you will hear your whole life. Or your own experience, which is becoming an efficient, constructive gift for mankind. For example, my page on YouTube is called Mr.Within's Gift. This is my gift. This is the vision I have now, which I feel needs to be shared. So we share the same eyes. So we walk comfortably through our wakefulness from our sleeps. You see, it's funny talking about sleep. There are bedtime stories. There are stories that come to tuck us in. We have parents, we have grandparents, or we have YouTube. I don't know. YouTube has audiobooks I listen to before going to sleep, actually. So, whether it's your grandmother or your mother or your YouTube, I guess, regardless of that. You must become aware that right and wrong are based on stories, and the greatest storyteller wins. And there will always be new storytellers. We haven't just been being told stories from our childhood. Everything is a story. We are told stories from the beginning. We are judging and solidifying our experience in the label of the word that means, for example, love. How can you label the word love? It's silent. It's a silent union. It's very interesting for me. But there are different types of love. Thank God there's some guy named Alan Watts who came and talked about the spectrums of love. Different types of love, how it's the animal's itch that is being cured, but at the same time, outside of your hormonal imbalance, your vision is in a cycle of desire, that you're constantly wanting something. It's as if there's this random wheel. It's as if there's this random version of you or voice in the back of your mind that is suggesting, hey man, go do this, let's go do the desire. We're not wasting time here. Let's go to the desire. I found that this talk is going to get slightly serious and more into my reality. So if the transition is too much and if you think I'm talking nonsense, either intend to listen completely to the end when I'm connecting the dots, and I'm finishing the walk, or just stop listening to this and forget all the ideas you heard in the past however minutes you've been listening to me. You see, it's something which let it either be helpful or let it be something that doesn't serve you, because you don't want baggage. You don't want to keep so many options that your hands are too full to, pick up the important things in life, the important views. Therefore, to continue, one side of you should understand and be aware that you need efficient action. You need to have efficiency. It's not like you're becoming a mechanical engineer to just make, let's say, machines or other parts more efficient, or creating things or inventing new things. You are at the same time being inventive in your approach to life, not to how you're approaching life, just your how you see your life progressing. And you become aware of that, and you're recognizing that the greatest thing you can do is a contribution, not a takeaway. You're not here to take things that much, It's not that important if you take it or not, We're all walking to the grave. We're all taking the grave at the end. You don't need to keep your hands full to just, drop everything and go into the grave. You need to understand that physicality has its place, but because now we are transcending, we're at the most exciting existential time. Guys, how exciting is it that I'm a pair of eyes experiencing an animal, let's say, for example, the ape and its evolvement into the human form, transcending into its greater and unspeakable idea, where the mind of man cannot conceive. There was this amazing mystic poet who had such a beautiful mind. His name was Rumi. And Rumi has this quote. I'm going to look this up while I breathe for a few minutes. I cannot find the poem, But I can say that the whole point of that poem, which I will share in the description below to give you the accurate poem, is that man's conception and his awareness did not just exist suddenly in the body of man. You have been aware of the evolution that you have been. We have the awareness, the consciousness, the existential consciousness, which I cannot say a single word of, only tell you to go experience it. That is a dimension of being which is so much more collective than you thinking you're just a human being. You're not just a human being, you're an experience. Just like how the trees are an experience when you see them or touch them. How everything is an experience. Therefore, go seek the experiencer. Go seek the experiencer if everything is an experience. If you're just some wakefulness that is up until it, lies into the grave, You choose how far you want to pursue your searches for life's greater meanings. You must understand that you must be drawn by a stronger pull of what you know is your truth to then become that view of truth. Follow your doubt. Your doubt is the most immediate question you need to answer. You need to be, why am I doubting? Quickly clear that in any sense. You know what I mean? For example, I'll tell you this. Nobody told me, but during my high school, I had a lot of PowerPoint presentations. But I was never, given lectures on how to give a presentation. I just saw good ones. I never understood how you give a good speech. How do you give a good speech? I didn't understand that as a kid. So I would delay and I would be humorous because my actions were opposite. And I realized surprise is humor, and humor is a better feeling, so the teacher is going to give me a better grade, for example, regardless of my presentation. But to continue on, there was nothing. I looked up some speeches. I heard Arnold Schwarzenegger's, 6 rules speech, I believe. And I'll actually put a link to that too, as well. Seems like I'm putting a lot of links today. And get rid of the doubt that's within you, because you are a great speech. It's not that you have to give a great speech. You don't have to give anything. You are it. Understand this and your life will be easier. In other words, you don't have to do something in a condition which you create for yourself to have. You see, I find my words to be reflective because I conceptually shift the values of the verb and the noun. I try to communicate that our understanding of ourselves begins with not having an inaccurate impression of what we are. The pinky finger cannot know using only the measurement of the finger, the whole system. It can be it, and it is it. In other words, before time and space came to create certain settings in your stories, in your vision, you were existence. You were here. You were present for the core of you that stands here, standing with everything else. You realize there is no general, there is no army. There is just presence. There is the idea of presence as well. You see, who was a general back in the day? Someone who mentally was strong as much as he was physically strong. For example, you see the movie Gladiator. That is a man with mental strength, where they killed his family and he still behaves like that. He holds his composure. A man who has killed another man, I'm talking about in regards to the movie Gladiator, you realize that character knew detachment because he was detaching heads all day. But when his wife and daughter left, he became sensitive to just destroy the person who took that away. Do you know what I mean? Not to why the killing someone else wasn't that valuable. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't equal value of human life. Why human life wasn't equal value. And you realize the reason human life is not equally valued, it's because of the shapes and spaces and different times and unique settings that have become our definitions based on history's loud voice, rather than the louder voice of the future. Because if we look to the future, we will not be that worried about our past. We will see the solutions and their involvement. Therefore, I want to definitely do a talk on dimensions and on my views of space and time, and if our existence is multidimensional, or are we just, a broken idea, or what are we? I will go over these, because these are things I want my voice to communicate. I feel it should. The language that our generation is using suggests the problems it's going to think about. If we're worried about an image or a symbol, Justin Bieber or I don't know, whoever is on your TV screen right now, the most person you've seen on TV, and try to think of what symbology you're using. Guys, back in the day, they didn't have distractions, so they could take a good look at life. Now, for some beautiful and hilarious reason, we have the hope to break a system that is distracting us from life. Guys, you don't need to be distracted from life. Go sit in your yard, go to the park, go listen to the silence before you fall asleep and transition into that state of being, feel yourself in many ways. Don't get distracted by life. Don't play a video game for too long, man. I mean, it's fine, but why play a video game when you can look out your window and go interact with those people? There's more gains you get, guys. The more riskier you are in your communication for bringing pure communication to the table. What I mean by that means values that are self-reflected, that are mirror-like. When you speak about a mirror, people will see themselves. And then you will understand that leadership is meaningless if nobody begins to act. We must begin acting in loving, caring, and efficient ways. We must not become a victim to our own technologies that are distracting us from life. Please go and be around nature, for that is how you recognize the nature of being, guys. Back in the day, there were meditative practices where you looked at something and you saw God in it. You would put a candle and you would see the burning flame of the divine, right? However, now we don't have that. Our environment has changed. Our environment has changed so much where when we walk outside, we feel judged by others. We are distracted by our material self-image, which is always a mental construct. It's as if our awareness that how we look is an idea, but how we look is a physical thing. And we're just distracted by these two processes. There are different degrees of sensitivity. Alan Watts had spectrums of love. I hope to talk about spectrums of sensitivity. Perhaps I'll point to a lot in this video about what it is, and later on I'll make a very complete version. But sensitivity is how you are aware of how your life is working, how it's moving. It's not everybody has the same life. You don't have the same life as an African child in a tribe, in an Amazonian tribe. You don't have the same life as, for example, some kids who don't deserve the money they have, you don't have the same life as those who create money, you don't have the same life as those who go through physical hardship, or maybe mental hardship or emotional hardship. You have hardship in your life, but you're not the same. You're your own unique view because you're looking through different lenses of ideas that resonate with your natural harmony of truth. So sensitivity is based on the clarity you can have when honesty comes in. Guys, the reason you shouldn't lie is because it creates mental clutter and it distorts the real image of you. In other words, that practice of that guy looking at the flame means anything you look at, you can see God. But why are you looking through, let's say, the TV screen rather than, for example, a mirror? Do you know what I mean? Why is it that way? Why are you looking at a TV screen and seeing other views of what existence is? You see, the way you think about how man's body is designed is we have eyes right now. Let's say me being born in 1991, and these are my eyes. These are the eyes I have. This is the body. This is the weight. So it's as if mirrors are not always around. Let's say the first thing you see is in front of you. So you're defining what you are based on what you see, what you're looking out at. You haven't looked in yet, you're just looking out. You realize your creativity and interaction with what is out creates an idea of a mind. But then you're uncertain that it's an idea. Because you don't know if there's something more. Guys, it's not the shapes or the form. The all-knowingness that we are connected and integrated in this chaotically and beautiful unknown potential to be anything. If we are even present in the presence of stars, do you know? We are the God in that self-awareness. In other words, you look at a mirror, the mirror shows you, you know that's you. That is one level of sensitivity. Eventually it reaches a point where you look at everything. You see that existential connection that cannot be named, but it's here and now. Find that presence you had before you received very heavy and solid definitions and molds of what time and space is. We are building our realities, mental realities, similar to the Fibonacci sequence, where we're utilizing the past to spiral towards a more expansive future. It's as if the intention we have to evolve has been forgotten by existence, by us, by humanity. Guys, it's beautiful. I have had revelations, personal revelations, ideas which have just gone at such a momentum where they've opened insight, We will integrate to then discover our collective consciousness, transcendental as well. In other words, similar to how human beings can get enlightened, collectives can get enlightened as well. Any separation can become the duality of its consideration. Unity of its consideration. The duality, that other sentence also is valid, I guess. But unity of its consideration. You see, you're not here searching for a heaven that is hiding. You're not here stuck. But if you do choose to define your conditions very accurately, you will have accurate conditions that will affect you. If you say you are afraid of loud voices, you are defining a condition. You're making your conditions separate. Guys, you can have unified conditions. That means it doesn't always have to be a struggle. It can be an awareness to the struggle that is not struggling. It can be a presence that, regardless of the beginning values of some ideas, you don't need to put your own values on to feel trapped in. It's as if you don't need to be suddenly told you have cancer and live in ways where you're dying. Where you're focused on your death. And this is very hard, and I can never speak about people who go through that kind of hardship, but these are the ideas I have of it. Love is a beautiful and unknown pull. You go with it. You tune into it, you feel it, and you process yourself. And many times when people have worked with their intuition, other systems and solidified structures or other beliefs have challenged the one who's changing from that belief. There are some scientists who believe that if they speak of another personal insight that is more than what science can handle, they will be thrown away. We are social creatures. We are guided by the influences of society and what is even social activity. Freedom is beyond social activity. Freedom is beyond political activity. Freedom is beyond physical activity. Freedom is beyond non-physical activity. That is the range. That is the atmosphere. That is how high you should be in the sky. You should be close to the atmosphere changing into the unknown nothingness. Literally, our process of transcendence is similar to how we elevate ourselves outside of our atmosphere to find ourselves unbreathable. Sensitivity brings blessings because you become sensitive and aware. When I say sensitive, it's not just you become heightened senses. I mean, that is a byproduct, but you also become aware of who's sensing, In other words, if your parents told you you only had to work hard in the realms of thought, if you had to work hard there, then, or actually let me say it like this, if you had to work hard, you understood the value of externally working hard to getting what you want, you need to also understand, you need to work hard mentally as well, inwardly as well. It's as if your steps don't need to be just, outside, you need to take inward steps as well. That is more of a mystical teaching because it is telling you need to reevaluate how free you are every minute of your life. You need to reevaluate every condition. You need to see if it needs to be there or not. Not that you have to, guys. I'm not making this something which is hard and it creates stagnancy. I am suggesting that if you are embraced by your own stillness and silence and the flow of your intuition to do the action, then you become a very beloved presence. Guys, you know that feeling you get from, let's say, your parents or your friends or your lover or whatever, just loving you, having comfort, having that comfort, similar to how children feel, because it doesn't matter the mistake the child makes, it's comfortable, you know that view? That changes for a lot of people, but guys, imagine that change from the parents being no longer parents. Guys, life can be happy with you. You can feel happiness around you. You can feel elevation. You can be thrown in the worst condition only to recognize you were always free from it. It's as if there's a existential playfulness which I have not seen in anyone else in front of me except children. So I guess I'm a grown child or something. However, it's very important to see that our acquisition of the definitions of how we are sensing life create what our life is. And life is always more than a movie screen, because I'm pretty sure you can turn off the TV. So it's more than just a screen. Let your small metaphors be connected with your biggest metaphors. That is depth. Depth is, and there are different views on deep. Some depth, there's a level of, I guess, deep type of people, I guess, I've seen, who you see them communicate, but you realize they're asking the questions, but they have not confronted the answer. Some people are aware the questions that enlightenment is asking. Actually, many kids are. Many kids are aware what the Buddha was. Because, they see how our industrial systems are not that self-sustaining. They're mentally self-sustaining, but not physically. Kids shouldn't be extremely obese. That is just not necessary, However, to continue with the aim I have, you see, begin looking at your past and connect it to your future. What does that mean? That means confront all potentials of how your past is affecting your future and be comfortable with it. The mind has this ability, guys. No one is stupid. If you're understanding the words I'm saying, if you have access to some form of database, let's say a dictionary, and you can have those definitions when you're speaking with me, not completely, but to just know the words, so as if you are hearing everything I'm saying grammatically, then there is a action that can be done, which is more coordinated. You see, you need the silence to speak. And always respect the silence, guys. Always be comfortable with the silence. The silence doesn't have to say anything. The silence doesn't have to do anything, A silent person is one of the coolest people you will meet in your life. Because they are not using the definitions. They are seeing how, for example, sometimes I meditate on the park, or, in the park, or, in my accommodation, garden area, right? And when I do that, people see it, but I can be aware enough to recognize that they're having many different ideas on what I'm doing, and they are seeing how comfortable they are with it. It's as if when I'm just randomly sitting on the grass in a meditative pose, people are observing it, and they're judging it, and they're seeing how comfortable they are. Am I comfortable enough to see what this guy's doing? I mean, he's just sitting on the grass. Why isn't he partying? Why isn't he drinking? Why isn't he doing some other activity? Why is he just so still and calm and silent sitting? And then perhaps you'd come and talk to me, and you'd see that I'm actually looking at the stars. It's not anything. I'm just looking at the sky. That's a better TV for me than anything else. Any other TV. So once we're engaged with the ideas of life, we will no longer be confused and trapped in the ideas of man. And you must clear yourself and let your metaphors turn into fractals of existence. You must let your mirrors always be pointing to you. Because they are. Because that is a nature of creation. You see, we are at a beautiful point. We are at a transition stage. Anyone who is alive, anyone who will hear my voice until it's alive in the ears of men, you must be aware and enjoy your evolutionary process. There is no voice that is telling the next generation how the last generation lived. We must create those voices. We must create those presences in history. I must be able to leave something here for other humans to be aware of the things I was aware of. To tell people of the creative potential that we have. Of the infinity that we are. Of the non-existence that always danced with existence because they were defined by each other's eyes. I am not afraid to talk about depth, guys. I'm not afraid to talk about anything, actually. I don't care what I talk about. I could talk about the most ridiculous thing. But the reason I push it and I go that far, because it needs to be talked about. Because I don't need to hear someone reciting a soap opera episode in front of me with another person when I can see that there are bigger ideas that we can talk about. People are ambitious creatures. All human beings are able. Regardless of whatever limitation you have, you are able to be aware of the limitless. Regardless of whatever limitation you have. Regardless if you're a slave to your own mind, or you're trapped in an image that was never yours, or you're wherever you are able to become aware of your limitlessness. You are able to experience eternity as much as you're able to experience non-eternity, the temporal. You choose what kind of a walk you have in a park, and when I say walk in the park, you begin at the beginning of the park, which is your birth, and the end, which is your death. You're on a walk. How much are you enjoying your walk? How much do you like the things that you're seeing? How much is there a knowing in you that something is wrong and you let it pass because others are saying it's right? You must let your heart and your being speak. If you're a human being who wants to communicate, who wants to not just listen to speeches, but communicate a better world, you must confront yourself to the point that you have no opinion of yourself. And only a selfless man will become the transparent presence of his cause. You're no longer fighting for anything. You're no longer the fight. You're no longer a fighter. You're life. And that one word was the only word that could capture every other definition, every other element of existence. Life. And creation. And infinity. When you think about these ideas, when you think about what your infinity and eternity and creativity means, you discover a version of yourself that is much more able in regards to your thinking process. Life is a valuable melody to hear. Do not walk down this park and not see the birds that are chirping on the trees. Do not walk in the park with a blindfold because it's the most recent blindfold that was on store. It's the new iPhone 6 blindfold. Blindfold. It's the new distraction blindfold. You must let any incapable versions and ideas of yourself to fade in an instant. You need to let yourself relax and feel how you are the greatest version of yourself. Just feel it out. Just feel out how this is all you can do. This is the best version of you. Feel it out. Feel comfortable with it. And then after that, relook at your past from your future. Become the new you. Feel the new you and don't define it. Understand that if you define yourself as a rich asshole, then you'd be a rich asshole. If you define yourself as a poor saint, you'll be a poor saint. Regardless, if you define yourself as any abstraction, any dualistic combination of realities in an idea, regardless of that, you are the creator of your world in this moment. Because you are defining what your world means to you. And self-awareness to existence is important, especially from our generation. If I am alive and if I have a voice, I'm going to suggest this. And hopefully everyone who hears me will be aware of themselves self-reflectively, both mentally and, in other categories that one creates for oneself. We are free beings if we are not mentally chained to ideas we feel we are. We are not slaves. We are multidimensional co-creators. And if that doesn't mean anything, that's good, because it's not supposed to mean something in regards to ideas and words. It's an experience. The peak of your experience will never be something that you have captured in regards to your vision before. You will experience novelty in this life, and you are every moment. When you're able to fully and quietly and silently and gracefully and gratefully receive the silence of the next moment, then you deserve all the noise. Then you are comfortable with hearing everything. If before I go into a class, I respect the silence that is present, and I am aware of that level of silence, and then I go into the class, I am not just hearing the teacher's voice, I am hearing every other voice present. The way you communicate with the ideas of what your senses are suggests how well your senses work. If you think you can't see, if you think you're blind, if you think you're whatever, there's also mental blindness. whatever, if you feel that, then you don't need to be that inhibited. You don't need to take it that hard, man. Relax, buddy. Like, don't think that you are the person to blame for the worst condition you've lived. And don't think that you're not the person to blame when you have that worst condition. Be slightly neutral when it comes to judging yourself, and be playful. In other words, if someone comes and calls you a loser or something, or be chill, just receive it without any value. And what that means is that there was this very beautiful, I think it was a Chinese proverb, I'm not really sure, but it's like, or maybe it's from the Tao Te Ching, and it says, don't take, no, let's say, loss or anything, and don't take no praise. Don't take it. Don't receive it. In other words, if people come up to you, and let's say let's go with that loser example. If someone comes up to you and says, "You're a fucking loser, man. You don't deserve to live." Let's say someone says something like that. The worst thing you can say to someone, right? You choose how you take it. You choose the value you give. So, based on the Tao Te Ching, you don't judge it. You're like, okay, man, thanks for the feedback. That's all you say, And you realize something different happens. It's as if you've dodged the bullet. You've dodged the condition that the action was suggesting you are in. Then, let's say, the next day, that same person understands what he said was, stupid, and what you said was hilarious, so he runs back to you. And when he runs back to you, he says, "Oh my God, man, you have won live. You have won." Let's say Mitch Hedberg was that guy, because that now, after the person has said, "You have won," what has come to pass is simply another valuation, mental evaluation given to you. Literally, someone's coming up with a piece of paper and saying, "You are, let's say, a winner," right? Don't take it. Be preferenceless, and it will. Not in a bad way, guys, but it's kind of weird, because when you become preferenceless around others who have preference, you become a mirror. You become literally a clear view for them. And what that means is that you don't judge. You have no grudges. You have no anger. You're very calm because you don't have a preference. But you are capable of taking immediate action if necessary, if the physical foundation of you is being discarded in any way or dishonored. It doesn't mean you should, not be able to protect yourself or use self-defense here physically. You should always be able, you should be capable physically, But you also need to understand that our ability transcends into how we treat our incapability as well. How you confront yourself when you are not capable. Let's say you're incapable, when you fail. How do you take failure is very important, because it suggests how distracted you will be with the idea of failure. Some people fail and they never forget it. Some people fail and they forget that they even have that definition. And they continue on, and their prosperity becomes a new idea for them. When we say new ideas, that means new versions of life. What does that mean? That means if I take the human idea and I say it is no longer just an overgrown monkey, then or overdeveloped monkey, then I am opening up a new potential of creation. But we realize that before, people said that we were from a monkey, evolution that way, there were those people much, much more ancient who had a clearer view of our origins. They were simply, because they weren't here, they didn't have our distractions, so their questions weren't tainted by all these irrelevant ideas and consumerism and marketing. Back then, they had a clear view of what was life. And they understood progressions. That's why there were seers. Who are seers? Seers are people who they have been known through history to see beyond their time. And there's definitely another episode where I will talk about what a seer is and how it should be approached to be a seer. But that's for another time. However, seers saw the movement of life. They saw where it's flowing. They saw that the top of the pool stick hit the billiard stick hit the ball, the white ball, and the white ball is going to hit the red ball. They can see it. They can tune into probabilities. But guys, this is really different to explain because probability is based on measurement, and when you're in a measureless state, when you're in an infinite state, it becomes a conception of potential. What does that mean? That means you see much further, but you're seeing many different potentials because everything can change it. In other words, before, for example, me coming to BCU, a couple months ago, I had this thought, I had this intuition, this knowing. It's as if I was going for a walk and I just stopped, and I knew I was going to be living next year in the UK. I just knew. I didn't know how, And then, guess what? Life throws at me, a mechanical engineering program, which was the most interesting thing that I can engage in regards to school. So, your intuition does speak to you. And the more sensitive you become, the more capable you become of working with your own knowing. And if you don't judge your knowing, it works fine. If you judge your knowing, then oh my God, you're not psychic, you're not intuitive, you're not sensitive, you're nothing. You're just the judge's voice, and you're crushing no longer, not crushing. You're not using your hammer on the podium. You are breaking another. Judgment is really important. Judgment is simply mental dissolution. If you go up to a kid and you suddenly tell him this is not your life, the kid would freak out, right? Some kids would freak out. Some kids might be, I know, no shit. But outside of that, it's your sensitivity to life that suggests how sensitively life is going to listen to you. In other words, if you're walking by and you suddenly get this feeling to turn right, and then you see, for example, some unnecessary trash around birds or something, and you take that trash away, you realize that action leads to a sense of abundance that you may deserve. In other words, the more good things to do, the more reasons life has to do good things back. And when I say good, it's not like to, help someone, let's say financially. It's not just like giving millions of dollars to charity. It's selfless action. It is being sincere and authentically just giving something to someone because it's going to help them. There's nothing to compute. There's no need for photographs. I hope this has been helpful. It's been a very interesting talk. In this talk, I've came across many things, but I'll be honest, there were some things I just couldn't point at because I didn't have the words for. But, life is always a beautiful view. And that same view can be found, in your backyard or on a postcard. All right. Thank you. Much blessings and have a great day.